I would like to know a bit about these waves, because I've heard theta, delta, but I still really wouldn't be able to tell people what they meant and why they exist. So could you give us a bit about that?
Yeah. So like me now, so in a 24-hour day and night cycle, we tend to have 4 types of brainwaves, 4 different frequencies going through a brain. One that I'm in now is like the beta wave. So I'm wide awake, I'm thinking, I'm alert, I'm focused, I know what I'm saying, I'm enjoying myself, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm also on it, I'm awake and I can get stuff done, So then we drop down a little bit. Once that sort of slows down and we just relax a little bit and we become a little bit calmer, then that's when we move into what's called the alpha wave. And alpha waves are slower. So the beta wave are around 12 hertz up to 15, 18 hertz. The alpha wave is around 8 to 12 hertz. So just slower frequencies. That's when we become calmer, more relaxed. We can access our intuition a bit better and so forth and so on. When we drop a little bit more, we go into what's called the theta, which is again, it's 4 to 8 hertz, slower rhythm. And for most of us, that's when we can almost feel like we're daydreaming into that light sleep. We're just drifting away. And then, when you get to low theta, you're almost going into sleep. And then when you're asleep, for adults anyway, you go to delta, and delta's where you're in deep sleep. There's no awareness of you at all. You're gone. You're in deep sleep. So those are the 4 brainwaves we have in a 24-hour cycle. Now today, most people experience too much beta, so too much of that on the go, or certainly up until the COVID debacle anyway, people working long hours, commuting long times, multiple jobs, families, mortgages, busy life, too much of that beta wave, and too much of that, if you can't switch off from that, is a slippery slope to anxiety and depression. You've got to switch that off because your brain doesn't want to be that active all the time. And that's a big, big factor. So that's an issue. So if you can drop down and access these other states of brainwave states, it's healthier. But then there's also this extra brainwave, which is called gamma. Now, gamma brainwaves are really when your brain is functioning at its peak. As I mentioned briefly earlier, more of your brain cells fire at the same time. So that creates coherence, it creates oneness, it creates flow. Your brain's functioning better. You process information rapidly in gamma. That's why you can download information into your subconscious. Rapid processing speeds. So this is a suggestion of this is what happens when you're in peak performance, when you're in peak states of consciousness, mystical, spiritual states, states of flow, states of zone. So the more you can access gamma, and the reality is most of us don't create much gamma much at all, and I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute, but the more you can access gamma and activate gamma, you are quite literally training yourself for peak performance, optimal functioning, to make flow states easier, to make getting into the zone easier, to switch off your stress response, because that's one of the big things. When you activate gamma, stress response is off, completely off. You can't have your amygdala stress center on when you're firing gamma up. It's gone, it's the complete end of the spectrum. So just on the physicalness of the brain and what it does to creating those brainwaves and what the effects on the body, the physiological effects, it's an absolute bonus. But then when you know how to use that brainwave and reprogram your subconscious, then you've got a technique that just takes, very, very quick technique that gives you the ability to change the limitations that you've picked up and upgrade your subconscious so it's in alignment with your conscious.
And what's going on? Because I've heard this thing around when you're in the shower, that puts you into a different brain state. Is there something there? And when you wake up in the morning, it's the same sort of thing? So first thing in the morning and...
Yeah, so, first thing in the morning, when you wake up, you'll have very little beta because you haven't really waked, you're not alert, you're not focused. So you'll be in that sort of alpha sort of phase, that sort of still a little bit twilight, dreamy, thinking, relaxing. And then, you get up and then you might get into the shower and get the hot water on. It might perk you up a little bit, your brainwaves change. But, your brainwaves are changing all the time throughout the day, depending on what we're doing, But generally, if you can create gamma, if you do a gamma every day, and this is something, most people have got very, very little gamma at all. Let me give you there's an experiment. Most of the research that's been done on gamma brainwaves is actually at University of Wisconsin, a guy called Dr. Richard Davidson. And he's had Buddhist monks in there. He's got like a massive lab with like real high-tech brain measuring stuff, probably one of the best in the world, apart from Russia. And he's had Buddhist monks in there that have had over 10,000 hours of meditation experience. And he measures their brain whilst they're doing one of their Buddhist meditations on compassion, a compassion-based meditation. And then he sees this huge burst of gamma activity in their brain showing, look, you know, these are in flow, they're in oneness, they're present, they're here. Wow, you know. Then they had a control group of students which they taught the same compassion meditation to in the university and for a week, and then they had their brains measured doing exactly the same meditation, and they didn't have any gamma. They just saw an increase in alpha, so showing that they're more relaxed, they're more calm, but they're not producing this gamma state, you know. So when I heard this, and when I was working with my technique and was able to find, I can show you how to produce those gamma waves, that became very, very exciting, and that's what led to the PhD study. You know, it's like, hang on a minute, look, you don't have to spend 10,000 hours doing Buddhist meditation to create gamma. I can show you by this 4-step technique. Now, I'm not saying that by doing this technique, you're going to develop the inner mind of a 10,000-hour meditating Buddhist. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that you're creating the same brainwaves, similar brainwave pattern to those Buddhists, but you don't need to have that amount of hours. It's a different technique altogether. And the reason it works is because the 4 aspects of the science together make it work. And this is what I found sort of by accident, really. So,
wow.
yeah, so that's how it all fits together.